C'est un peu à décider, moi je sais
Well, Enacting Populism started in last year in Antwerp through a residency in which I started to question myself what could be the possible relationship between artistic practices and what has been defined as the populist zeitgeist of Europe, where right-wing movements, right-wing parties had developed a xenophobic language and kind of created a shift in the way in which the political sphere was representing itself in the everyday life in many European countries. Starting from that, I've started to also embed one thinker in my project, or let's say the theory produced by Ernesto Laclau, one that among the others has described the populism element as an element inherent to any democratic process. So he created a broader understanding of what populism can mean, comparing the European context, the European situations of the several nations that were facing right-wing populism with the populism experienced in the South American context, specifically in Argentina, the place where Ernesto Laclau comes from. So starting from this broader understanding, we kind of, me and the artists that were participating in the residency together with me in Antwerp, kind of understood also how populism could be a way to represent this new idea of how politics were representing themselves, and now the imagery that politics were creating the narratives that politics were constantly creating in the everyday life in the mediascape, were affecting the understanding of populism as only a right-wing populism. With this new understanding of the term, of the notion of populism, I kind of started to create this idea of enacting populism, because I wanted to not only have a possibility to represent, to give a visibility to what was ongoing in Europe, but also to create a broader understanding of what populism could mean. So with this show in Paris, in Kadist Art Foundation, I started to work with other artists, not only the ones participating in the Antwerp phase, to create a show that could be also a comment to the political situation nowadays in France, for example, because the show positioned itself in the last 2 months of the French presidential election campaigns. So that means that we already are here in Paris now in a situation where the mediascape is highly saturated by communication, by images related to the candidates, to the political representation of these candidates. And so this show is not only a contemporary art show, but could also be seen as these offices, these political bureaus that pop up in town just for the elections. Because of that, there was a space that was opened up for the artists to work in an exhibition space that could be read as also something else. On this, connected to this, there is the possibility that we had to collaborate with the Communist Party that borrowed us the furniture from their party, designed by Oscar Niemeyer. So also to represent another moment in time in which the relationship between a creative class and a political class were totally different, because the party as a social element was completely different, and the way in which the politicians were represented and positioned themselves in the public sphere was different. There are many works, and let's say that mainly there are two dynamics that are developed in the show. One is about representing the mostly the European context and the populist approaches that we see in Europe, and some other works are more propositive, and they try to articulate, as I said before, a broader understanding of what populism can mean, and also to try to suggest different perspectives on what populism can do to create a potential, let's say, social change in the way in which the political discourse is articulated, and find a representation of itself in the mediascape. In the title also there is this game that I play, because it's not enacting populism in its mediascape, but it's in its media escape. because I wanted also to stress how some works have a different understanding of the medias and of their use in the contemporary sphere. So, for example, how there is not a traditional discourse around the media, around the use of internet, for example, but the possibility to read the internet, for instance, as a space that still can find escapisms to the articulation of positive and emancipatory myths, as Isiton says in his essay about the potential use of transformative myths in the discourse that politics creates.